This is the Exploring Majors presentation, like I said. My name again is Megan Lindbeck, and I am the Major Exploration Coordinator at Boise State. So I sort of oversee undeclared advising from a lot of different places, a lot of different interests, but truly for the undeclared or exploring students. And we'll talk about what that means in a second. So really quickly, wanted to kind of talk about the reasons that students may come to college undeclared. I myself was undeclared for a few years in college, and so I know this feeling very well. Some of you may be, working through some thoughts about this, or maybe you sort of have an idea, but you're not exactly sure you want to declare just yet. There's a wide variety. The biggest ones that I see as an advisor to new students coming to Boise State undeclared is, I don't know what Boise State has to offer. I have only been taught a certain few subjects in high school, and I really want to learn more about a few things before I nail down the one thing I want to get my professional degree in. A few others are, I know what I want, I just don't know what I can do with it. I know my skills, but I don't know how to translate that into a major, or vice versa. I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I like, right? So there's a wide variety of things. And I'm sure you all have your own internal personal feelings about being undeclared or being exploring and what that means. Let's talk through a couple of quick major myths and facts about being undeclared, because there are a few things that we think of, right off the bat when someone says, oh, I'm undeclared in college. There are some feelings and some thoughts associated with that. So let's talk a little bit about what those are. So there may be some of you who are coming in thinking a couple things, right? I just want to take this like magic test. I hear that a lot from my students is, can you just give me that one test that's going to tell me exactly, what I should be doing, what I'm good at, what my career should be. There is no true magic test that'll tell you all of that, but what we will talk about is something called assessments and how they can be useful to an exploring student, an undeclared student, a student who really maybe needs to focus a little bit more on who they are and building that self-knowledge and understanding. We hear also a lot that there must be this one major that I'm meant to be, and I just have to find it, right? Like it's there, I just need to find it for myself. And unfortunately, there isn't ever going to be this one perfect, nothing wrong with it sort of major for every single person out there. There's going to be majors that fit you best, and you'll be able to articulate why they fit you best. And that's going to be a great thing. If we can find that major that, like I said, really speaks to you and satisfies you and makes you feel fulfilled and is the kind of career placement you want to be in, then that's a great major. That could be the perfect major. But we do see a lot of students who kind of back away from certain degrees, even if they fit them 90%, 95%, because of one maybe thing that they're not exactly sure about, and they're thinking there might be something better out there. Definitely worth looking, right? We need to explore all of our options, but also knowing that there's not this perfect 100% major out there for every single person. We need to get you to a place where you are fulfilled and happy in what you're doing. Same kind of with a career. This used to be a little bit more historically accurate, that there would be, a lot of careers that people would start off in and stay in. And then maybe even retire from that same career that they had started in. And more in this, in these most recent years, these most recent graduations, we're seeing students not really doing forever careers anymore. I think that gives people a lot of anxiety when they say, how at 18 or 19 am I supposed to pick that one career I'm going to do forever? And that's becoming less and less the case, that you're going to be working a single career forever. There could be ways that you work into a field and stay in a field for a long time, but you move around within that and your job changes within that. So also understanding that you're not picking something forever, you're picking something to start your life in, and your life will take you other places besides just that one place. And then lastly, are there any benefits to coming in undeclared? As someone, with experience in being undeclared, I can tell you that one of the big benefits to me, and that I even see reflected in my own students now, is that there isn't this same thing when you come in undeclared, where a student might come in with a declared major, knowing that that's what they want to do for a long time, but never truly having done anything in that career, maybe haven't done the research they need to do about that career or that major. And they get a year or two in, and then they truly do find out that it is not what they thought, right? So one of the big benefits I see to being undeclared is that if you do this correctly, you start from, the baseline, and you really put some time and energy into researching yourself and the options you have at Boise State, you could find that major you want to do, that one you were meant to do, from an earlier time than maybe a lot of your classmates. At Boise State, one of the sort of statistics that you're going to hear quite a bit that's kind of thrown around is that 87% of our students change their major at least one time. And twice or more is going to be less than 80%, but not a ton less, maybe more like 50%, because there is this phenomenon of people or students who come in believing they want to do one thing and not having done the reflection and the research to make sure that that is the one thing. It does happen, and that's a great thing for a lot of students. But if you're coming in undeclared, there's this benefit to that. So let's talk really quickly about some, logistical things about being undeclared at Boise State. So a lot of text on this page, but really I'll just break it down for you. There's more than just one type of undeclared at Boise State. So these bottom two here, general undeclared, that means you are totally undeclared. You do not have a major of interest or even a field of interest. You are going to be advised by my office, the Advising and Academic Support Center. We work with all of our general undeclared students. Same with the College of Arts and Sciences undeclared, which you see is the second from the bottom here. They're also advised by our office, because at a certain level, if you're undeclared in the College of Arts and Sciences, that's a very wide range of undeclared majors and interests. So it's okay to be advised by a general advisor at that point. But other than that, all of our colleges actually advise their own undeclared students. And this is a great system, because if you are a student who says, I know I want to work in some type of business, but I'm just not sure what Boise State has in business, or I'm kind of trying to decide between these two things, that's great, because then you actually get advised by College of Business advisors who know the most about their own majors and their own programs. So that is a really cool feature about being undeclared at Boise State. There's sort of this weird little like half step. There's undeclared on one hand, and there's fully declared on the other. And then there's this middle area, which is, I don't know exactly, but I know this much, right? And so you can be undeclared within a college, which is awesome. Lastly, you must declare a major in something once you've earned 58 credits. And this comes a little quick for students who are, coming in with an associate's degree or lots of AP credit or things like that, because they've already come in with earned credit. And we want to make sure that you have the time to devote to figuring out what your major is, but you must declare a major at 58 credits. It doesn't have to be the exact one you graduate with, but you can't be undeclared at that point. And again, please send in any questions you have, and we will try to go through the rest of this, in the next, 15 minutes or so, and then I will answer your questions at the end. So exploration process. Let's just break down the exploration process at Boise State a little bit and how we sort of work in ASC with our students. So we sort of break major exploration into 3 parts, and they really do build on each other. It doesn't mean you have to, go straight forward, no looking back. You can circle back to any of these sections, but really we would want to start at the beginning. So really, we'd want to start with who. So who are you? What are your values? What are your skills? What are your goals? What do you want out of a job, right? Those are all things that we have to have first. That's our foundation. That's where we build from. After that, we move on to the how. Okay, now I know a little bit more about myself. How do I figure out, if this is the major for me, if this is the career for me? And that could be doing things like exploring courses in a specific field. That could be doing volunteer or internships, things like that, and utilizing other resources that I'll show you in a minute. And then lastly, the what, maybe meeting with an advisor, maybe going really in depth and doing like a job shadow or an informational interview. These things under what are the things that you wouldn't want to jump into without any sort of research, right? You wouldn't approach someone at their place of work and say, hey, I want to shadow you for a whole day, but also I don't know what it is that you do, right? You want to have done a lot of the work here, exploring what that career is and how it fits you before you would jump into, all right, now let's do a day in the life of to see if I really truly want to do this. So let's talk a little bit more about the who. So who is what you can think of as doing like a lot of those assessments, those sort of like tests that you may have heard about before, and maybe learning more about who you are as a person and what your interests are. So normally if we were doing this, in person at Bronco Day, I would maybe have even had you guys do a quick little assessment. Since that's not super possible over Zoom, I did want to give you guys some really cool information about what is possible at Boise State as far as, assessments go. We have a ton of really great assessments for students. And what's great is that this is a collaboration between us and the Career Services Office. So Career Services at Boise State is not only, the office that can help you build your resume and learn about interviewing and internships, they also will work with you from the ground up, right? So they house all of our personality assessments. So we do have a free one available to students that you can work with a career counselor on, as well as 3 paid ones, the ones that have costs associated with it, that are even more in depth than our free one. So we have lots of different assessments that you can take with a professional at the Career Services Office, and they will walk you through the assessment and have a follow-up appointment to talk about what your results mean. Outside of that, you can find tons of really cool assessments online. And what's great about assessments is that there is no wrong answer. You're literally just learning about yourself in a million different ways. So if you take 2 different assessments and they come at you with 2 very different things, that's okay. It might be the way that their questions were worded or their assessment was put together. And that's totally fine because you're just kind of gathering information at this point. This is one that I really like, and I can put a lot of these links in the chat at the end of this whole presentation, but 16 personalities is a really cool assessment. I'm going to show it to you right now. So this is the 16 personalities assessment that I take often with students in my class, which I'll talk about in a second. And so this is a website that you would take this test, I guess for lack of a better word, this assessment with a bunch of different questions. And at the end, it'll give you your personality type. So I've taken this a few times and I can tell you that this is the result I get the most often. And it should tell you, a little bit about your personality and then a little bit about like different things, your strengths and weaknesses, how your personality type plays into different types of relationships in your life, and then also career paths and workplace habits. So career paths is what I use with my students the most often, and it just kind of goes through how your personality type would work in a career field, let's say. What are the things that you would excel at? Maybe where are your areas of improvement with your type of personality? So that's just like a really cool, quick one. Like I said, it's called 16personalities.com. It's free, and I just think it's a really cool, fun way to sort of like dip your toe into this self-exploration, self-assessment. So let's go back here. Next thing under our who and learning more about yourself, This is actually a course that you can take at Boise State that I teach, and it is a 7-week course, which is awesome. So I teach it twice a semester, and it's a 2-credit course. It is elective credit, so it goes towards your elective credit and not towards fulfilling like a certain required major class. But a lot of majors do need elective credit, so that could be super beneficial. And what I do with my students is I kind of work through 5 different units with them. Here's a picture of 4 of them. And we start at the beginning to kind of work our way through, and it sort of gives you that really good like baseline foundational knowledge about who you are, and maybe trying to identify some majors at Boise State that would fit with that self-knowledge. We talk about everything from, like I said, academic choices. We take various assessments, including that 16 personalities one I just showed you. And you'll actually be doing an informational interview as part of the course, which is awesome. I can talk more about this at the end too if you have any questions, but it's called ACAD 109 Major Exploration. Let's jump really quickly into the how. So how do I use my self-knowledge and connect that to majors, right? So I'm going to show you really quickly 3 different websites that I show my students a lot of times. Major Finder being the first one. This is a Boise State specific course. So this is showing you every single major at Boise State that we have. Unfortunately, it's not in alphabetical order. Believe me, I don't know why. It's been an issue for me in the past. So you can scroll through here and look at everything that we have to offer. And then if you find something that you like, you can click on it, and it's going to tell you a little bit about that major, some details, right? Like what college is it in? What kind of degrees do they offer? So psychology has both a bachelor and a minor and a certificate and a graduate certificate. So lots of things in psychology. Tells you a little bit about psychology. It would be a good fit if you like these things, if you like these things. And then these 2 lines down here open up degree options. So here you see the psychology bachelor's C plan. So if you click this, it's going to take you to a 4-year plan for a psychology bachelor's at Boise State. Definitely use this with an advisor if you do want to use this. We want to make sure that everything's up to date, since catalogs do change every year. So we want to make sure you're looking at the right stuff. If we go back, and sometimes it does kick you out, but that's okay. You can just type it in up there. If we go back, the second one here, it does show you some related types of careers that you would, maybe want to look into if you were super interested in psychology. So this is a pretty basic tool, but it is nice because it's all about Boise State. It's not going to show you something and get you excited about something that you can't major in at Boise State, which is great. The next one is called What Can I Do with This Major? And this is a website that Boise State has on their career services page. And this is because this is a site that we pay to have access to. So you can't just kind of Google this. You have to go through a career services site to get to it. But we'll go through there. And on this website, this is kind of for those students who are in the mindset of, I know what I like to learn about, but I don't know what kinds of careers I could do with that, right? So if we go to this site, it's going to show you just a ton of majors, right? Just different things that someone can, get a degree in. So if we go down, let's stick with psychology, since that's a good example. Let's just go with psychology and see, right? So this is how this website kind of works. It's going to show you, cool, the area of psychology. Now, here are the different areas within psychology that someone could work in. Human services is one of those. Here are a bunch of different careers you can do in the area of human services. Here's who your potential employers would be. And here's some strategies for getting a job in the area of human services. Great. What about if I don't want to do human services? Well, did you know you could do research with a psychology degree? Here's some of the jobs, the employers, and the strategies for a research job. Education is listed here under psychology. human resources even under psychology. You could even work in business with a psychology degree, right? So it kind of goes to show you that if you're someone who thought maybe psychology was just to become a counselor, right? Like I could either teach it or I could be a therapist. I don't really know what else I could do with psychology. This is meant to sort of broaden your horizons surrounding what that could look like for you. Last one is I wanted to show you the Occupational Outlook Handbook. And this is sort of the reverse of the last one you saw. It works best if you have a job title actually in mind. So if we click on this, this is what the website looks like. It is a federal website. It's done by the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. And I just type in a job. So if I just type in psych, it'll probably bring up a bunch of different things related to psych. Psychologist, psychiatric technician. Let's go with psychologist. This is what the summary of the job would look like. It gives you some really cool, quick facts about the job, but there's all these tabs up here that are really awesome. Like, what do they actually do? Like, what does their day-to-day kind of look like? What sort of work environment do they have? Do they work in an office? Like, what does that look like? How to become one is super great because this is what an undeclared student needs to see, right? Like, okay, cool, I know I want to be a psychologist. How, right? Like, how do I get there? And this will walk you through the education path that you need to take. So this is a really great resource. Again, it's called the Occupational Outlook Handbook. If you Google that, this site will automatically come up. It does go through some pay and some job outlook information as well. Take out all of that with a grain of salt, right? Because we know that this can't be the end all be all product to tell you exactly all of this information, but it is a really cool starting block. So after we use some of our resources, and I know we're going through this kind of quickly, but I do want to get some questions in at the end if you do have them, and I can share all these links as well. Who do I talk to? If I've kind of done some of the who and some of the how, what's next? Like, how do I do the next step here? So I think the best kind of resources you have right away at Boise State would be either meeting with a major exploration advisor. And again, that's in the Advising Academic Support Center. And that would be meeting with someone to just talk generally about your interests in different majors. We can show you different requirements majors have, what your kind of path forward in courses would look like, not necessarily a 4-year plan, but a bunch of information about classes you would be taking. And then also maybe meeting with a career counselor. So this is, again, if you wanted to take some of those assessments, if you wanted to even start talking about doing an internship or a job shadow of some kind, they have a lot of connections within the community too, which is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to stop the screen share right now so I can get to the chat, and I will work through any questions that you all have sent in. And definitely take your time if you've got one and you want to craft it. Take your time. I won't, stop the presentation until. So we have a really great question. How can a student avoid being here longer than they really want to, right? Longer than that kind of 4-year time frame if they start out undeclared? That's a really great question and a really fair question, right? Because that does happen sometimes. I think the best way is to get started early with an undeclared advisor and really put forth the effort into it. If you really put forth the effort into doing those assessments, researching your, who you are and what major could fit you, you could declare that new major by the end of the first semester and be well on your way towards that 4-year time frame. Where we see students sort of going beyond the 4-year, which is becoming less and less, it's more and more rare that students do get out for it, even if they come in with a major. So we definitely want to try to get you to that 4 and stick to that. But if it does go beyond that, that is very common nowadays. But I think the earlier and the more invested you are in the exploration process, that's where we really see a lot of success with undeclared students. It's the undeclared students who sort of say, I'm just going to kind of hang out for this first couple semesters, get my generals done, which is fine. We can kind of get you that, you know, maybe a semester, maybe 2 semesters where a lot of the classes you take will go towards lots of majors. But if you coast that first year, just taking those generals and then at the end say, cool, now I'm ready to start the exploration process is not immediate. So that needs to be starting your first semester. And then the sooner and the more, like I said, invested you are in that, the sooner you will declare that major that is right for you. And then it's just go as quickly as you want towards that finish line. But yeah. Any other questions that people have? I got another one here. What if I want to change my major during the summer? Because I think there's maybe a lot of people who right now, a lot of students maybe on their application said that they are undeclared, but they maybe kind of figure out exactly what they want before they come for summer. And you can do that online. Any student can change their major online through their My Boise State. So if you've logged into your My Boise State before, that's sort of like your landing page for your Boise State information. It's got like your Boise State email on it and your student center on it. What you could do is if you scroll down the page a little bit, there's a button that says change my major. Flat out says change my major. Go ahead and click that, and it's actually super easy. You'll see that there's a little trash can next to your current major. So if you want to delete your current major, go ahead and do that. And then there's a big list of new majors on the side. Just type in the one you're looking for, and it'll filter for you. And you just add it and submit it. Super simple, super quick.